Marifelt winning Derry was very, very memorable. 12 points to 11 against the Glen. First title since 1978, but it's as much for Danny Heavron's interview as anything else. There's incredible emotion.
Yeah, I was only catching up on this was last week, that as regards how novel an occasion it was. There was a brilliant interview actually Carol Kane and the Irish News did with the last Marifelt captain, Mickey Niblock, who be a father of David Niblock, who used to play for the Cork footballers, and it just kind of captured the sense for both clubs, Marifelt and Glen, how much of a big opportunity this was, because you think Ballinderry and then Slaughtneil have kind of dominated over the last couple of years, and then I suppose when you're not at the game, you just get a sense of kind of what it means when you see these clips. And that interview from Danny Heavron is really quite amazing, in the sense that at the start of the interview he's kind of capturing the far-reaching implications of this and what it's going to mean for them down the line, and then at the end he's just bringing it back to kind of something very personal, talking about his mother in the last couple of minutes, and the fact that I suppose the game ended such drama. The Glen on the attack, have a shot, and the referee blows the full-time whistle.
As the ball is sailing over.
And like a team wins by a point. So for the way that the crowd was massive, I think it was just under 10,000, which is incredible, really.
I think anyone who hasn't seen that Danny Heavron interview, just Google or put his name into Twitter. He was just saying he was praying to his mammy that she would help see him through it. So. It was brilliant stuff, really, really brilliant. And
obviously Thomas Niblock, the interviewer from BBC Northern Ireland, is from there, and he was kind of very well. I think the fact that you could see how emotional he was interviewing him as well, I think that probably added to it. And just massive achievement for them.
Yeah. Conor Glass was named on the bench for the Glen, and for anyone who doesn't know, he's been down in the AFL the last couple of years, and I think last year there was a stage or maybe 2 years ago, he was named on the bench, but it just seemed to be like a token thing, really. He did the warm up, but contractually with the AFL he can't come on. I think it's a bit of an own goal to name him, because all the talk is, we'll have Conor Glass, we'll have him, and like even Declan Bogue was saying, he tweeted at half time, Mara felt ahead 9-5, winning the midfield battle hands down, in case of emergency break Conor Glass onto the field. I think it's a bit of an own goal to have that talk going around, and it's a disappointment when he doesn't play.
I wonder, is it a thing that maybe you're trying to get inside the heads of the opposition, because I suppose it's changed so much from about, I suppose the originals were the likes of Ty Kennedy, weren't they, and Zach Toohey coming home every year. And then in recent years, then it seems to have changed. The big one last year being when Mark O'Connor played for Dingle, and Mark Kieran Donaghy and Geelong were completely unaware of it until 24 hours later. And as he said himself, he got into a little bit of bother over it, So I think it's now got to a stage, some of these guys are getting so established in the AFL that they just can't really take the chance in kind of playing them. So I don't know, maybe that was it. Maybe like you name him on the programme, and then Maher felt kind of wondering, are they going to spring him, are they not? But the fact that it was a 1 point defeat, the fact that it was so big for Glen trying to win this, and the fact that they didn't play him, you'd imagine it was never probably a run or so. Because obviously in that tight of game, you're definitely going to bring on a guy of his quality to try and get you over the line.
To bring him on, you're like, he'll make the difference now. But Shane Heavron top scored for Maher felt with 5 points. 4 of them were frees. Obviously, as I said, the referee blowing it up near the end was. Like, as much and all as people are trying to be magnanimous and say, well, look, the better team won anyway, that really wouldn't matter to me now. If you had a shot sailing over the bar, I know the referee doesn't have to necessarily continue a play because the team is on the attack. If time is up, it's up. But you'd be fairly annoyed at that now.
Yeah, I think there's a natural way for a game to end, and when a team is on the attack or a team has the ball inside of 45, that just doesn't seem kind of the right way to do it. I suppose we're just going on the reports, but it is interesting the way the consensus seems to be, because sometimes you've seen these situations and it's a massive controversy, but everyone who's at the game seems to be putting the caveat that Maher felt were the better team, despite the way that the game ended in such kind of drama.
There's some great pen picks, like the player profiles in the match programme. I'll run through a couple of them. Obviously the Maher felt lads were having a bit of crack. So Conor Mansell, he had his occupation as a ventriloquist. Just a couple of more. There's a fine art dealer, head of security for One Direction, a teddy bear repair, golf ball diver. There was a good one here from comic book illustrator, children's party entertainer. So that's a sheep shearer. So really were.
So they clearly were relaxed before the game, after having a bit of crack with that, and obviously paid off getting the result.
Danny Heavron, his earliest sporting memory, getting kicked on the leg playing in an under-8 splits, wasn't happy, and then the biggest influence on his career, looking for that lad that kicked me. So a bit of crack there, worth checking out online. It wasn't a final over the weekend, but in Kerry there was quarterfinals, and the performance of David Clifford, playing for East Kerry in the 123 to 111 win over Dingle. Just that alone, like, just remind you again. Like, I would say that game was on RTE solely because he was going to be playing, and they knew people would tune in to see him.
Yeah, I kind of thought as well that it was to do with, you know, they had such. Their 2 games last year were so good, and it was kind of billed as, you know, Clifford against Ganey in the forward line. Yeah, but I was quite surprised, to be honest, with the margin of the victory for East Kerry, given how last year had gone. Given, you know, Dingle seemed to be in good form. That, you know, there's some load of top class players. But, you know, East Kerry, I suppose the way that they won the previous week, 2 weeks against Cairns O'Reilly's, obviously seemed to stand to them. And you just look at that team. I mean, apart from him, there's a fairly strong supporting cast there, and, you know, his brother's a really good player, Paddy, Jack Sherwood, and then you've loads of guys from these Brendan's Killarney teams.
Roach was absolutely brilliant full forward, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he played Kerry under 21 maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So, like, Clifford's the star of the show, obviously, but there's a lot of really, really good players there, and it's a long time since East Kerry got to a final. I think like they won, I think maybe 2 or 3 in a row in the 90s. You had like Seamus Moynihan, Declan O'Keefe, John Crowley, you had a lot of big stars there, but this guy is obviously, you know, he is the standout when you look at it.
The way he scored that goal, the way he finished it, he was soloing through 1-on-1. Then it looked like he wasn't sure whether he was going to kick it or solo it, but he has such skill and dexterity, he was able to get it, solo it back to himself and then knock it in.
Yeah.
Paul Ganey didn't get enough ball. Like, he got a beauty of a score at the start of the game. Tom Sullivan never really got into the game either.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I mean, like, you would have seen kind of the impact that they've had with Kerry this year, the two of them, and especially how strong kind of Ganey finished the season, and, you know, he's been prominent for Dingle in the early rounds of the championship. You know, it was just the margin of it kind of surprised me. You know, I thought that was going to be quite close. But yeah, East Kerry kind of march on now to next Sunday against St Brendan's.
South Kerry beat St Kieran's 17 points to 110. St Brendan's beat Legion 112 to 110. Diarmuid O'Connor ran the show there. Looked really good.
Yeah, they'd be a really novel semi-finalist. But if you look at the team, then, you know, him and Jack Barry, they have a good couple of guys that have had Kerry experience in recent years. You know. Dr.
Crokes beat Kilmurry Shamrocks 120 to 112. So Kilmurry led 110 to 11 points after 41 minutes, but then Crokes got, I think it was 8 in a row. And Owen Cormacan tweeted, "A right fiery second Kerry quarter final here in Killarney. 5 yellows handed out inside the opening 19 minutes. Gavin White and Sean O'Shea haven't left out of each other since the throw-in. The former one of the 5 to pick up an early yellow. So St Brendan's against East Kerry in one semi-final, Crokes against South Kerry in the others."
Yes, that's a repeat of the final 2 years ago, Crokes at South Kerry. But I think it just shows, let's say, that scoreline maybe looks a bit misleading, you know, like Crokes win comfortably. But when you actually kind of see the nature of the game, they've just done this so many times, they just pull clear. And you just see the quality they have, like Tony Brosnan, again, seems to have been outstanding. And I mean, he's only, I think, maybe had one season kind of 16 with Kerry, but just at club level, particularly in the local kind of county championship and the Munster team, kind of seemed kind of unremarkable over the last couple of years.
Different gravy. The Mayo Football Championship, the final was on over the weekend, and it's a 5th Mayo title since 2010 for Ballintubber. They beat Balladreen 114 to 111. Killian O'Connor hit 7 points, 4 of those were free. Stephen O'Malley got 3, Michael Plunkett got the goal. For Balladreen, Andy Moran got 6 points, 3 from play, and Cormac Doohan 1-1, but yeah, Ballintubber kicking on again. They
look so difficult to beat in Mayo, and I mean, it's incredible that they hadn't won a senior title before 2010.
And James Horn was over them, wasn't he?
I think he brought them to a county intermediate, didn't he? And then he kind of took over the Mayo scene. So like, they've had a really, really strong decade. They've kind of backed it up. You know, after Castlebar had done 3 in a row, that they've won the last 2. From the outside, to me, the big thing for them now is to just try and get over the line in Connacht. I think they've been to 2 finals. Corofin have actually, I think, been the side that have beaten them on a couple of occasions. So, you know, you get to a certain stage, you win so many counties, and especially when you're in a province like Connacht, when it's kind of so small, you can imagine that's going to be their big target now.
And of course, sometimes, like, the big teams, the best way for them to not go on and win the All-Ireland is to see them knocked out early in the championship. Corofin last year drew 7 points apiece with Mount Bellew Lock in the county final, hammered them in the replay. This year, Sunday, Corofin 15 points, Tuam Stars 2-9. Unbelievable performance from Tuam, but I think straight away everyone will think that's your chance gone.
Yeah, because I suppose the lesson is there from last year. But again, it's a case that Corofin, a local rival, and particularly in the case of Tuam, kind of putting it up to them. Because, I mean, from Tuam's point of view, they're the traditional superpower in Galway, but they haven't won it in 25 years. You're seeing Corofin go for 7 in a row. You're seeing them win all these Connacht and All-Ireland titles. And they must have thought, you know, when they got that point, I think it was Jamie Murphy, He had scored the penalty and then he put them up by 2. But then I suppose like Corofin, things probably weren't going for them. Liam Silke missed the penalty, but Gary Syce has been so reliable, hasn't he? Pointed 2 frees. A couple of people maybe questioning the injury time again. I've seen a couple of people talk about that.
There was talk that there should have been 3, but there ended up being 6, and it was a very soft free from which Gary Syce equalised.
Yeah, and it just, it's just a classic case. You just wonder, will that mean the underdog's chances pass them? Because Corofin have shown before in so many games that they're able to get the job done in a replay.
There was a very different approach from Tuam compared with Mount Bellew, Mylock last year, which is that they went more man on man, whereas it was 7 points apiece last year, really defensive game. And like a lot of credit would have to go to Tommy Carton, because Tuam were in relegation bother last year, and now they're putting it up to the double All Ireland champions.
And it's not like they have a massive amount of names that jump out at you. What county experience was Gary O'Donnell aside?
And Tommy Carton, he kicked the winner the last time Tuam won the county final in '94 at the age of 19. Apparently, a couple of young lads, Brian Mannion and who got man of the match, and Ben O'Connell were very, very good. And no defeat in the county championship since 2012. But Kieran Fitzgerald didn't start, the veteran fullback. Now he wasn't even togged out, I believe. Dahi Burke. I don't know, is it a Turlock Moore thing that he's more focused on the hurling, or there was talk of glandular fever?
That's interesting. Is the county final next weekend, the replay, because that's the Galway hurling semi-finals are next Sunday.
Yeah, and I don't think Micheál Lundy started either.
Yeah, so Lundy came on at half time and then Burke came on with about 6 minutes left, but we hadn't really seen Burke for much of the Galway Championship this year, and he's kind of, I think, operated like that the last couple of seasons. But then I suppose you've seen, from seeing the games when they beat Nemo Rangers and when they beat Dr. Crokes, he's been absolutely central to it, hasn't he, in midfield in the All-Ireland final wins.
And David Connors at Peters Wellman, he tweeted, "That was an enthralling football final. Fair play to Tuam Stars, going toe to toe with perhaps the greatest club team of all time, and unbelievable stuff by Corofin to dig out a draw. Not many teams could manage it under that pressure." Do you think they're the greatest club team of all time in football anyway?
I think Crossmaglen will probably still maybe go battling for that.
Need another.
If they win this All Ireland, that's 3 in a row, and that's unprecedented. So then I think they're definitely in the conversation, because this particular bunch of players, I mean, say the club have had a lot of success over a long period of time, but this particular bunch of players, what they've done since, winning the All Ireland in 15, 17 and 18. But I think Crossmaglen did something similar, 3 and 4. So they're the one that jumps to mind straight away, and they maybe could rival them for that.
So further down the Wild Atlantic Way in Clare, in that final, 9 points apiece between St. Joseph's, Miltown-Malbay and Kilmurry-Ibrickane, who've a couple of titles between them recently. I saw a very funny tweet from Paddy McMahon, who said Miltown fullback Shawnee Malone is after scoring a point for Kilmurry-Ibrickane, tried to pass the ball back to Sean O'Brien and went over his own net.
I always think that this is going to happen someday, because you see so many times players kicking the ball back to the keeper that it's kind of inevitable. Someday it's just going to be a bit overcooked, and that'll go over. But that was a real, again, like Corofin Tuam, that was a big local derby. First time they'd ever actually met each other in a final,
And first time meeting at all in the championship since 2010.
A lot at stake. And actually, was the goalkeeper was the hero, come up to kick a 45 in injury time for Kilmurry-Ibrickane. So that's fair composure to kind of slot that, and I think it's next Sunday again, the replays.
And Donegal Championship then, Guidibber against Naomh Conaill Glenties, 8 points apiece. I think it was a Kieran Thompson 45 levelled it late on. It's some turnaround from Glenties, because they were facing down the barrel of 3 final defeats in a row, having lost 17 points to 1-7 last year. That is a fair alternative. It
is. I suppose it kind of speaks to the Clare final. Pretty low scoring. Kind of a lot at stake. But you can see kind of that sometimes county finals can kind of burst free and can be these brilliant flowing encounters.
The weather plays a part in that too.
Yeah, that's true. But just sometimes it's just the tension can kind of overtake it a bit.
You have the whole town looking at you saying, "Come on, get this done for us."
Whereas the Galway final seems to have been really, really good this year. And as we were saying, last year's had been kind of marred when it was so low scoring.
The Waterford Championship, another really low scoring final. Rathgormack 2-6, Ballynacorty 1-6. That's the first title in 20 years, and the goals from Paul Drohan and Willie Hassey. So they'll be waiting on the Clare champions in Munster. Yeah,
and the big thing there was that Waterford has just been dominated by the Nair, Ballynacorty and Stradbally. I don't think anyone has actually won it since Rathgormack outside of that trio. So that was just a big thing to kind of get some kind of novel champions. I suppose to kind of break up the kind of stranglehold that they've had over them, and they'll wait now on Miltown-Malbay, Kilmurry-Ibrickane, who you imagine whichever one of them comes through will probably be a bit more experienced, but that's superb from Rathgormack. they'll be a sister club of Clonea, who I think went up senior hurling, was it last year or the year before. So that's, been a superb couple of seasons for them.
But what team has gotten to the Munster final recently, wasn't it? The Nair
The Nair lost Austin Stacks, and they lost to Dr. Crokes as well. Before that, I think Stradbally would have got to one as well. So
they like you writing them off.
They have. Well, I suppose it's just the classic thing, isn't it, of a breakthrough team. Whether you can kind of push on and you go for the province, but I suppose it's good for them that they're not out for a couple of weeks. That's probably the benefit. Actually, they're probably not out till I think it's the 17th of November.
So they get to go off the rails in the meantime.
Exactly.
Enough time to pick it
you
up.
get to celebrate, and then you can come back down to earth and not train for a couple of weeks and properly enjoy it, which I always think is great, because I always feel sorry for these club teams that such a big thing for them to win a county, a breakthrough one, and then this stuff of, the crazy situations were the ones that were going out in provincial championship the following day, or even the week after. Like
Waterford, you were knocked out of both codes in intercounty early in the summer.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you have it so close to the provincial championships?
Well, they've had situations previously when the hurlers go out on a run, because there's so many dual clubs down there. They've had crazy stuff where county finals are gone on until like the end of November, and they've had to nominate teams, and
do you remember
been a disaster for.
Tipperary would certainly have some strong dual clubs, and Lockmore, Castleiney, didn't they play either a refix game or a replay of a county football final on the 26th of December?
Yeah, Stephen's Day in I think it was 14, because Tip got to the hurling final replay, and Lockmore were going for both, and I think there was a nomination that year, so they didn't win the county final Stephen's Day, which is just seems mad.
In London, Tyrconnell Gales beat Fulham Irish 111 to 110, so that was a close game there. Paul Coggins getting it done against Owen Mulligan's Tyrconnell Gales. The Louth Football Championship, so this was refixed last week because there was a bit of standing water in the walkways around the entrances.
A lot of people didn't seem happy with that, people were at the game.
Because there was no backup plan for a sprinkling of water coming down. It was a bit of a joke.
I seen the club said they wasn't really alerted. Usually if a game's in doubt in the morning, club secretary might get notified by the county board.
So the players showed up to the ground, I said that
very late
last week. The Gaelic grounds was a bit of a kip, really. And the players showed up, and one of the stewards there said, "Lads, you may go home. There'll be no football played here today." It's a bit ignorant the way it was said. Also,
just lack of notice seems a big issue.
But Newtown Blues beat Nave Martin 2-9 to 1-9, so that's another title for the Blues, and it was all over early doors because they went 2-5 to 0 ahead, and the Jocks left themselves with too much to do. So Alan O'Connor got a goal in the 5th minute, and then his fellow cornerback Emmett Carolan, he converted a penalty, and that was kind of all she wrote, really, because it was an uphill battle for Nave Martins. In Sligo, 4 in a row for Turlestrand after beating Cooler Strand Hill 2-17 to 9 points. So they march on once more. Would you give them much chance of doing much in Connacht?
Well, they're up against Padraig Pearse's next, and I suppose that maybe goes back to what we were saying about the first time champions. That was so big for them last week when Roscommon. But at least they have a couple of weeks. It's Sunday the 3rd of November. It's down for. Sligo clubs, they just haven't really kind of threatened over the last couple of years. It's really been Galway, Mayo and Roscommon clubs really have been kind of dominated. So the history would suggest, especially, but the fact that they're 4 in a row, maybe now that might be the time they might be primed, and maybe this might be one when they've been thinking they're going up against a club that haven't experienced. They maybe might have a bit more belief for this one.
I thought it was funny that this weekend there was quarterfinals in Kerry. But then at the other end of the country, you're in the Ulster Championship, the preliminary quarter-final.
I think one of the things about that, Ulster always like to not be doing games week on week. So the Ulster Club Championship, if you look at it, there's a fortnight break between each of the rounds. So they just obviously like to just kind of get it started. Whereas in Munster, probably just run it off a bit more. And obviously the All-Ireland final replay having a massive impact on that with Kerry this year.
Derry Gonley Harps from Fermanagh, they beat Aero Carrigan from Antrim by 210 to 12 points. Conal Jones and Garvin McGovern got the goals, and they'll be up against Trillick next. The Monaghan Championship, right, so that went to the final, and Scottstown were looking to complete a 5 in a row, but they're after losing to Clontibret 114 to 11 points. 6 points for Conor McManus and a late Ryan McGuigan goal. So
and they were kind of dominated for a good while in Monaghan and Clontibret, and then they've seen Scottstown kind of come, they go over a bush. The most interesting thing that struck me about this is what's going to happen next. So the John McEntee is the manager of Clontibret, and given the results in the Armagh final yesterday, Saturday 2nd November, Clontibret v Crossmaglen in the first round, or in the Ulster Club quarter final.
I saw Donnacha Boyle put out a tweet yesterday at the start of the Clontibret-Scottstown game. He goes, "Near perfect conditions in Clonus, Scottstown, who have former GA Director General Pádraig Duffy in as a selector, go in search of 5 in a row against Conor McManus, Clontibret." Like you said, the Armagh final was on over the weekend. Crossmaglen 2-18, Ballymacnab 2-9. 45th senior title. anyone who doesn't wear the black and amber up there in Crossmaglen must hate that club.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And like Ballymacnab have really suffered. Like they've come through over the last couple of years. I think it was they lost them last year, and they took a bad beating maybe about 5 or 6 years ago from them.
3 points.
I think that was their first final in a long time. But you know, it's just amazing. Like they go a couple of years without winning, and like it's such a big thing because it's finally some other clubs who come through, and then it just seems like the whole new generation has been kind of rolled out again.
Yeah, Oisin O'Neill and Colin O'Connor scored the goals. Rian O'Neill, he was named man of the match. Like he's a class player. I don't know if people haven't seen it, look up Jack Rubin's pass for Gavin McParlin's goal for Ballymacnab. Crossfield beauty. If Dermot Connolly did it, the internet would have exploded.
Yeah, it was outstanding. Interesting. I've actually seen. I hadn't realised it till last week. There was I think it's Colm Curley, or is it Chris Curley's his name? He was playing for Cardiff football against Dublin a couple of years ago, but he's now playing for Crossmaglen. He's now living up there. Not really sure what the connection is that has brought him up there, but he's in addition. They were kind of talking about how the team has kind of changed, and Rian and Oisin O'Neill now are so important for them, and obviously he's a guy that has kind of come into the frame now as well. And the kind of All-Ireland winners, some of them are kind of taking a backseat or coming off the bench, like Kyle Carraher and Johnny Hanratty.
Do you think Armagh should be closer to the elite level teams in Gaelic football at this stage?
Yeah, they're kind of that. I suppose
like there's talent
in the weekend of tiers conversations. They're kind of in that 8 to 16 bracket, aren't they? That kind of push into the top 8 every couple of years. But you think, you know, and especially this year, I suppose they like the one thing that struck me when they played Mayo is there's some serious forwards. You know, aside from Jamie Clark, like Stephen Campbell, Rian O'Neill was a big breakthrough this year. Grugan's a really solid player.
Been good over the years.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they're probably that team is just kind of tapping into a bit of consistency.
What's your thoughts on the tier 2 being pushed through over the weekend?
I think it was always kind of inevitable with the way the soundings were going over the last couple of weeks. You know, I suppose look, it's true now, and it's up to the GA to kind of sell it, because I think if it withers away the way the Tommy Murphy Cup did, that's going to be a real indictment on him.
Like people already really are not buying into the Super 8s because so many games were drab one-sided affairs, or we ended up with the Tyrone Dublin situation in Omagh.
Well, I think at least look, I would give them an allowance that sometimes, you know, situations emerge and things are tweaked, and they do seem to have kind of moved to change that for next year, and that the round 1 winners of the Super 8s will play each other, so that the fixtures aren't preordained. But I think my biggest issue with the tier 2 is what's going to happen to the work of the fixtures review group. And it just seemed the timing pushing it through before their report had landed next month, and the GA are arguing that they will still have the chance to bring in stuff for Congress, but it's very difficult when you hear some of the radical proposals they're bringing through, which I think sound really interesting. I mean, ultimately, look, probably don't want to bore people talking about structures too long, but it's just the provincial system is the biggest issue I would have, and I think that's the biggest problem facing GA Gaelic football level.
Who does this help? Like, does this help the smaller counties? If you listen to the likes of Kieran McCabinet, the Antrim chairman, he's like, well, our experience with the Joe McDonagh Cup is this isn't going to help us. And it shouldn't be all about TV and all that kind of stuff, but you don't want to feel like a forgotten county either. Does it help a club player? Absolutely not. Does it make the provincial championships any better? Absolutely not. Does it make the league more relevant? It does for Division 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You'd have to say that. But
that could be amazing, the last day, the promotion and relegation battles for that, you know.
But is there going to be something wrong in, like in the shake-up, let's say the last day, you're a Division 2 team, and you're safe, you know you're not getting relegated, but you know you're not going to end up in a final either, so you're third. So you've got nothing to play for on the last day, and you're against a team fighting for their lives. And then some other team is waiting on the result of that game, but unfortunately one of the teams doesn't actually care. So you're going to end up in a situation where one team is giving it everything, the other is like, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I suppose one of the instances I would have seen this year was that Armagh were safe in the last day of Division 2 when they were playing Cork. And just from talking to people at the game, it still seemed like they were pushing fairly hard towards the end. Like, but yeah, I know that would be a fear, alright. I mean, look, I've talked to a couple of players. There has been a lot of criticism of it, and people are against it. Like, but I was talking to one of the Limerick players last weekend, Donal Sullivan, the goalkeeper and captain, and he's all for it. You know, he thinks it's going to be great to just get the chance. He said to play in a final in Croke Park, and he said if it's properly sold like that. And the point he made, which I think is kind of getting lost in it, is that this isn't going to solve everything, but it may help in a couple of ways. You know, if you're giving teams kind of something to kind of aim for, and all that. But I suppose bringing it down to kind of media coverage and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I would question whether that should be the biggest barometer of all this. Like, you know, it's kind of what it does. it's what's going to be done next, I think, to tackle, say, the provincial imbalance in the club. I mean, if this is kind of looking at one small little thing in terms of kind of giving the lower ranked counties a competition to play for, well, it's only kind of solving a small part of it. I mean, it's not going to be the wide ranging solution.
Yeah, I'll just be like, with the club situation not being incorporated into the next evolution of GAA fixtures, I just think it's set up for disaster. And having spoken with Michal Braiodi on OurGame, he was saying that yes, the fixture review task force, they'll come back and that can supersede what has just been pushed through, but it will have to incorporate that tier 2 setup. So
they now have to go back and revamp what their plans were on the back of what happened on Saturday.
It's a complicating factor. Everyone knows it's one of these really difficult things to fix the GAA calendar.
Yeah.
So now you're just crowbarring in something else that they have to work around. There just isn't joined up thinking. Kildare Senior Football Championship final was on at the weekend, and yet another draw. Moorfield and Sarsfields, it was 2-9 to 15 points. The battle in Newbridge there. First half goals from Mark McDermott and Éanna O'Connor gave Moorfield an ideal start, but Barry Coffey got a late leveller for Sars. Killian Whelan had an interesting tweet about this. He said, today in the Kildare final, 53 of the 60 players listed in the match programme are past pupils of Newbridge. I can't think of any other secondary school in the country that could claim something like that. And of course, someone pipes up alright and fixes our wagon. The county final, this is Declan Rowley, the county final in Longford this year, 63 of the 67 named in the programme were from St. Mel's College.
Yeah, that is an interesting comparison. I suppose the thing is that I think a lot of the clubs in Longford kind of feed into that one town, whereas the Kildare one is interesting. I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, that there's very few counties where one town has two such strong senior clubs.
Yeah.
You know, the county town like Navan and Portlaoise don't really have that kind of a comparison. And they have been really, really dominant. But yeah, that's a super stat. And it kind of proved again that there's very little between them, as there has been in any of the finals I think they've played over this decade. I think it's about the 5th or 6th now,
Sure, like being in the same town and losing to, lads whose lives are probably intermeshed.
It's got to foster a really, really keen rivalry,
Yeah. All right, that's it for Club Talk Football. If there's anything we missed, message in and we'll do a little something on it. And don't forget to follow OurGame on YouTube by clicking on that button just there.